Hey, welcome to episode 2 of Record Stories, My Final Life. Today we're going to talk about shades of Deep Purple. Before Deep Purple became pioneers of heavy rock, they released a debut album that had a very different sound, Shades of Deep Purple. That's what we're talking about today. Stay tuned. This record was released in 1968. And the band's original lineup featured guitar god Ritchie Blackmore, John Lord on keyboards, Rod Evans was the lead vocalist, Nicky Semper on bass, and Ian Pace on drums, who remains the only original member still in the group. While the Deep Purple we know today leans toward hard rock and heavy metal, Shades of Deep Purple is fascinating blend of pop, psychedelic rock, and early progressive elements. The standout track comes next. That's Hush. It's a cover of Joe South's original. Deep Purple's Hush became a top 5 hit in the US in 1968, and its energy was so memorable they even featured it in Quentin Tarantino's Once Upon a Time in Hollywood. Mandrake Root is another standout track. It brings out the more experimental side of the band with John's keyboards swirling and Ritchie Blackmore just tearing it up on guitar. It hints at the progressive and heavy elements that Deep Purple would later expand on in albums like In Rock and Machine Head. They even took on a cover of the Beatles' Help, but it's a very sad version, slower and more brooding, really, than the original. And it's an interesting take that reflects the band's tendency to mix pop sensibilities with experimental arrangements. It's hard to believe that this is the same band that would go on to release iconic albums like In Rock, Machine Head, and Fireball, which leaned heavily into the metally, more aggressive sound of hard rock. Shades of Deep Purple is much lighter, with more pop melodies and psychedelic influences. On the strength of this album and the success of Hush, Deep Purple went on their first American tour in 1968 and made various TV appearances, including John Lord being chosen to be a contestant on The Dating Game. And they also made a really nice appearance on Hugh Hefner's Playboy After Dark. And it's so odd to see Deep Purple and just the image that brings up with all these hip, groovy dancers around them. This album shows what a multifaceted and multi-talented band Deep Purple was. And they're all master musicians. And this is so different from their later output. It's really worth exploring. Shades of Deep Purple. Check it out. It's a good one. Thanks, and I'll see you on the next episode.